Hey everybody, my name is Caleb Hawkins, and this is sort of my venture into the world of guitar lessons. I don't consider myself a guitar teacher. I don't consider myself a music educator at all. I'm a player first, but I was kind of inspired by some things I saw from Julian Lage and something that Gordon Mote has on his Instagram. Gordon Mote is an amazing blind piano player, keys player out of Nashville. He plays on a lot of great sessions. And he's doing the 4-note challenge. You give him 4 notes at any random succession, and he creates a tune out of it. It's really cool. Check him out on Instagram. But how does that apply to the guitar? Well, as a sideman who plays a lot of fiddle and banjo and mandolin or slide instruments, things that don't have fixed intonations or by default come in open tunings, I get a lot of sideman gigs where the singer-songwriter that I'm backing up arbitrarily decided to just to throw a capo on at any random fret. 1st fret, 4th fret, 6th fret, things like that. And you ask them, what key is this next song in? And they just give you this blank stare, or sometimes they panic and they don't know, which is, okay. At that point, as a sideman, what you have to do is usually just say, can you run through the chord progressions? A lot of times the chords are very esoteric and they're not very complicated. It's not like they're playing, shell voicings, things that you don't easily recognize right off the bat. But my challenge for all you guitar players who especially like to have a fiddle player or a mandolin or a banjo or any number of instruments that you don't play is that when you write a song or when you go out to perform it, to be mindful of what key you just asked your sideman to get into. A banjo historically is tuned to open G tuning, but you've decided to put everything in E flat. And I've seen some singers that they're just like, I think it sounds cool and it's easier for me to sing. You're asking everyone else to accommodate something that can be quite challenging. So think about that. Ask your side people if they're okay with that. Because as it turned out, they might have actually preferred you to be either up a whole half step, there we go. That's, or down, depending on what instrument, what tuning. What I really find challenging is when a guitar player comes up and they're capoed up at the 1st fret and they start messing around and you realized that they were capoed up at the 1st fret and tuned down. Or they were, doing some weird thing like, trying to keep things moving here, but and also trying to recall scenarios that made me mad. They'll capo up at we'll just say the 6th fret, and they'll play out of the C chord position, which put them in F sharp. The problem is, you just put yourself in the key of F sharp, which is its own set of challenges, but it also puts your guitar into the range of my fiddle or my mandolin, and I don't get a whole lot of separation from you. Now I'm playing in almost unison notes with you. That could be cool, but if you're playing rhythm, probably not. I'm probably going to get buried in the mix, and then you're going to be looking over at me going, why aren't you playing louder? Or why is your solo basically just not inspiring? If you wanted to play in F sharp, well, this has a lot more growl to it. You could capo at the 2nd fret and play out of E, or you could do us all a favor and just play out a G. Understanding that if I can now play up here, then I have some room to move melodically, and you're at a much lower register. That gives a fuller, bigger sound. So my little challenge to close this video out, because I feel like I've rambled and dragged a little bit, and maybe that's all right. Maybe you guys wanted to hang out with me if you know me, but maybe you're new here and you're thinking this guy just doesn't know what he's talking about. Here's my challenge. All right. Where are all the F sharps on your guitar neck? And for just simple ease, I'm going to make it easy for everybody here. All right, a guitar has 14 frets to the body, generally speaking. Some are 12. Some guitars have cutaways. But for just kind of a universal musical access point, we're just going to say to the 14th fret. Because if you have a 12 fret neck, whatever, you can reach over. All right. Where are all the F sharps on your neck? Keep in mind you've got 2 open E strings. Okay. So if we're looking for all the F sharps, well, there's one here. But where are the other ones? Well, we've got one here, here, here. Okay, did I miss any? There was that one. Where are all the E flats? Ugh, well, I've got 2 open E strings. I don't have 2 open E flats. What's a mandolin? What's a fiddle tuned to? What's a banjo tuned to? Those are questions to ask when you start throwing things in B flat, E flat, A flat. Do those instruments have an open string in that tuning? How far away from an open string in that tuning are they? Okay, so all right, we're looking for E flats. Well, this string doesn't have one until I go all the way up here. This one has one here. This one has one here. This one has one here. This string has one here. This one doesn't have one again until here. So E flat, oh, so you can imagine asking a lead guitar player to solo, well, you've decided to throw your capo at the 3rd fret and play up here. Well, that's a little much, isn't it? Now that you understand where all your E flats are, what about C sharps? Because I've seen players love to just capo up at the 1st fret and play out a C sharp or something. Well, let's see. I have a C sharp that comes into play on this string here, 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 and here. What about B flats? Well, so understanding where you put other musicians to accommodate your capo choice, or understand just where things are. It's very handy to understand where the notes are on a guitar. I had a gentleman one time was watching me play a tune. And I was just up here in the 7 to 9 and 10 fret region. He's like, oh, you're all the way up in the key of H. That's what he literally said. Well, I was contrasting the notes I played here against this open E note. I'm just harmonizing. So understanding where you're at on the neck and what you're doing when you move your capo around, what key you just bumped everybody up to. Maybe you take a quick couple of seconds and learn the tunings of the instruments that you're asking to play with you. I had a songwriter one time, and he threw this song into, it was E flat minor, and they wanted banjo. And they're like, I'm hearing banjo on this. Are you? What are you hearing? You're hearing fiddle in that key? All right, well, how much am I getting paid for this gig again? You start asking those questions pretty quickly as a sideman. So this is all stuff to keep in mind as a songwriter that wants to play with others, is to write songs that are easy to play with others, or at least friendly to play with others. And don't get me started about the people who love to capo up in one spot, and then they get to a certain point of the song and they decide to throw a dramatic key change in there. That's a whole other, I could do a whole other rant on that. But, it's all music. I love playing music. I love playing with others. What I tend to not enjoy is when I end up playing with other musicians who, just mostly out of ignorance, choose to write and create music that is not other musician friendly. And that can transcend all the way to the rhythm and the time signatures that they play in too. I can remember playing with a guy one time, and he's like, let's play a little blues in E, and then he proceeded to kick things off in this odd time signature that I never did figure out. Even the drummer was like, I can't count this time, I don't know what this is. And he's looking around, he thought he was just playing, a nice sports bar blues shuffle, but he was in a whole other jazz signature or something. It was like 13/8 or something. I don't know how this guy did it. Too many beers. But these are all things to keep in mind. When you're asking others to play with you, what are you asking of them? I've had a couple of singer-songwriters that are like, look, because of my voice, I sing a lot in the key of B flat. I sing a lot in F sharp. And, in doing that, I sort of came prepared. But not everybody understands what they're doing. Not everybody understands what they're asking of their sidemen. So, do you know where the notes are in your guitar? You can use a tuner. You can hunt and peck until you find it. But do you know where all the G notes are on your guitar? Once you find all those, where are all the B flats? Where are all the C sharps? Where are all the D naturals? Have fun. Let me know in the comments how this is going for you and what did you learn?